Okay, the next part of our music theory is going to be the circle of fifths and fourths. You don't have to do this, but it makes it cleaner if you have a nice even circle to work with. So what you're going to do here is just almost think of this like a clock. The top where it would be 12 o'clock, that's our key of C. And if you go back to the previous lesson and you look at the scales that we built, we started in the key of C, and when we got to the 5th degree of this scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that started the very next one down here. And if you do the same thing, if you look at this scale and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the D is going to start this one, and it's going to keep going in that one. So whatever is in this 5th column of the first scales that we did that provide the sharps, the order of sharps works in fifths. So I'm going to draw that out right now, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. So over here at the 1 o'clock position, there's going to be more than 12 for this. I'll explain why here in a second. It goes to D, and then an A, and then an E, and then we have a B, and then we have an F sharp, and we have a C sharp. That's one side of the circle. You can think of it this way. And on the sharp side of the circle, for sharps, it's in fifths. Once again, if you think about it this way, whenever you go to one of these right here and you count over to 5, that's a fifth away from the original key that we were talking about. And it's going to be the exact opposite for the second side. This was the other video that we did where we did the flat side. This one's going to be the circle of fourths right here, where if you go starting at C and you work a fourth away, 1, 2, 3, 4, this column right here, that's the 4th column, that's going to build the side over here for the flat side. So over here, which on a clock would be the 11 o'clock position, would be our F. And then we're going to have a B flat. And then it's an E flat. And it's an A flat. And it's a D flat. And it's a G flat. And it's also a C flat. Now, we talked before that there are only 12 keys in music, and that's the case. So when you're looking down here at these bottom ones, for example, this C flat is the same note as the B. This G flat right here is the same note as the F sharp. And this D flat right here is the same note as the C sharp. The reason from a music theory perspective that it's helpful to look at it this way, and I'll put over here that the flats are in fourths, is because each one of these individual keys that's on either side of the C, remember the key of C does not have any sharps or flats. Doesn't matter which one of these that we look at. If we go back to the first one that we were talking about, the C major scale where you go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, there were never any sharp notes in this. Any other scale other than the C major scale has either sharp notes or flat notes. And a way to think about this is that as you start to increment from one side to the next, or from the C to the G, for example, as soon as you get there, if you remember from this scale right here, we went from no sharps to 1 sharp, which was the F sharp note, okay? So there's an order of sharps that can be remembered like this. Fish, cats, goats, dogs, all eat bananas. And what is meant by that is as soon as you go to this first scale over here, which is G, if you look right here, the first one is an F. When you go to the next one, which is the D, The D has two sharps. It's an F and a C, just like right here, F, C. And as you work your way around the circle of fifths, every time you move to the next one, this one has one sharp. This one has two sharps. This one has three sharps, etc. And this one's going to have 4, 5, 6, and 7. So by the time you get to here, when you get to the key of C sharp, every one of those notes right there is sharped. And we're going to do the same exact thing on the flat side. So the order of flats is B, E, A, D, G, C, F. And what's interesting about this is that this is the exact opposite order of this. If you start right here at the very end of the flats, it's still fish, cats, goats, dogs, all eat bananas. But I was taught to think of it like this: bead, G, C, F. So when you get to the key of F, this was the second scale set that we did right here. If you move over to the fourth column right here, this is why it's called the circle of fourths. As you go down this column right here, it's bead, G, C, F. And you'll notice that when you get down to the key of C flat, every single note in that scale is a flatted note. When you start up here at C, nothing is flat. When you move over to F, which is the fourth degree of the C scale, the first note that becomes flat is the B flat. Once that one becomes flat on this side, just like the F sharp was on the other page, that will remain flat for the entire page. There's a B flat in every one of these scales right here. So that is the circle of fifths and fourths. There's so many other uses for it, but just from a music theory perspective that's a really good way of looking at it. All right, thanks a lot.